Good evening, and welcome to the 2016 Novi Fire and Police Awards Ceremony. I'm David Malloy, and I have the distinct honor of serving as the Director of Public Safety and the Chief of Police for the City of Novi. I'd like to thank our very own Novi Police Officer, Eric Carlamusto, who is on the left, and his partner, Mr. Alistar Hill, for playing the bagpipes prior to our ceremony this evening. Please give them another round of applause. If we could all please stand and begin our ceremony with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for coming out this evening. One of the greatest honors I have is that I'm allowed to serve alongside all the men and women present here this evening who we're going to honor here tonight. It's one of the highest distinctions one could ever imagine. Tonight we join together to recognize several outstanding individuals who performed valiantly and professionally in service to our Novi community. We'll recognize firefighters, police officers, dispatchers, and civilians. The officers take risks, the firefighters take risks. They suffer inconveniences to protect lives, defend our civil liberties, ensure the safety of fellow citizens, and they endure such risks and tolerate such inconvenience on behalf of complete strangers they don't even know, and they do it without one bit of hesitation. Tonight we will honor them and we'll recognize their service. We'll also honor several citizens this evening who have certainly gone above and beyond to assist citizens throughout their Novi. I'd like to recognize our elected leaders and many of my department colleagues who are with us here tonight. If you could please hold your applause till the end. When I call your name, if you could please stand and acknowledge. This evening we have joining us Councilmember Andrew Much, Councilmember Wayne Roble, Councilmember Gwen Markham. We're also joined by our City Manager, Pete Auger, and my colleagues that serve in the leadership group, my fellow directors, Cheryl Walsh, our Director of Communications, Jeff Muck, our Director of Parks, Recreation and Cultural Services, Tia Grunland-Fox, our Director of Human Resources. I'm also very honored to host this evening and have the Honorable David Law, presiding judge of the 52nd District Court, here with us this evening. Thank you, Judge. We also have the Honorable Travis Reeds of the 52nd District Court joining us as well. We have Chaplain Michael Zerkich, our Police and Fire Chaplain. We have Mr. Frank Ficarola, Vice President of Operations for Imagine Entertainment. And some of our civilian winners, William Sample, Carmen Fernandez, Bonnie Charles, William Charles, Srini Kalambi, Alexis O'Brien. Very honored to have them here with us this evening. If I could please call upon Chaplain Zerkich to give our invocation.
Let us bow our heads. Heavenly Father, you brought us home here tonight to honor men and women of the city of Novi, of which 24 hours a day, through the worst of times and the best of times, Lord, you put them through training, you put them through heartache, you put them through the sorrows, and you've also given them the discretion how best to treat not only one another, but the public at large. The men and women of the fire department, police department, very unselfish, Lord. We know that they exemplify how you love us. So, Lord, thank you for this gathering to celebrate each and every one of them, those who aren't here tonight and those that are, for all their families that gather around them and give them the moral and loving support that they need to do their great jobs. And Lord, thank you, providing people with absolute bravery in times when no one would know it, whether it's 3 a.m. in a police car or some other time in hot weather during difficult fires. Lord, you've been there with us all. So thank you for this time. Lift our hearts, and we want to ultimately thank you for providing for their safety. We say this through your Son, Christ Jesus. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain Zerkich. The public safety profession is one of the most noble and selfless occupations in our society today. Making a difference in the quality of life is an opportunity that policing, firefighting, emergency dispatching provides others, and one that no other professions can offer. A public affirmation of adhering to an oath of honor is a powerful vehicle that we utilize to demonstrate and adhere to our ethical standards. To be successful at enhancing integrity within an organization, leaders must ensure the oath is recited frequently and displayed prominently throughout the organization, as well as ensuring ethical mentoring, role modeling, and that they are consistent, they're frequent, and they're visible. So if I could please ask all the men and women of the Novi Fire Department to please stand, raise your right hand, and repeat after me. On my honor, I will never betray my badge, my integrity, my character, or the public trust. I will always have the courage to hold myself and others accountable for our actions. I will always maintain a proficiency in the art and science of fire engineering and emergency medical services. I promise to faithfully and professionally honor my agency and the community I serve. I solemnly swear. Thank you. If I can now ask the men and women of the Novi Police Department to please stand, raise your right hand, and repeat after me. On my honor, I will never betray my badge, my integrity, my character, or the public trust. I will always have the courage to hold myself and others accountable. I will always uphold the Constitution, my community, and the agency I serve. Thank you. If I could please have Captain Todd Sogg. Today, many homes and buildings are constructed with energy conservation in mind. Doors and windows seal tighter, and insulation has improved to help maintain an efficient, climate-controlled environment. However, there are instances when appliances, such as home heating furnaces, water heaters, and fireplaces, which burn wood or hydrocarbon products for fuel, may produce carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide is an invisible poison, an odorless gas byproduct of combustion, which can be harmful to the health and welfare of an occupant. In June of 2015, Captain Todd Sogg approached the Public Safety Administration with a safety initiative to have loaner carbon monoxide detectors on hand on our frontline apparatus. To ensure the safety of residents, the proposal was to temporarily loan out a carbon monoxide detector to homeowners who either could not afford one or who have a non-functioning detector. Through a generous partnership with Home Depot, 4 detectors were donated to the Novi Fire Department, and to this date, there have been 6 opportunities that our men and women in the fire department have assisted Novi residents with installing a loaner detector, which offers protection and their peace of mind for their families. For Captain Sogg's ongoing commitment to the safety and well-being of the residents of the city of Novi and the development of the carbon monoxide detector loaner program, which will continue to grow, please join me in recognizing him with a letter of commendation. Fire Marshal Joe Shelton and Fire Protection Officer Andrew Copeland, please join me. Fire Marshal Joe Shelton, in partnership with Fire Protection Officer Andrew Copeland, initiated the review and proposal to amend the City of Novi Code of Ordinances to the updated 2012 International Fire Code. The 2012 International Fire Code is the model code establishing the minimum standards to protect the public from hazardous conditions associated with fire, explosion, the handling of hazardous materials, and the use and occupancy of buildings and premises. The 2012 edition is the most current model fire code and also parallels the 2012 Michigan Building Code and the 2012 International Building Code enforced by our inspectors here in the City of Novi. Key fire and city officials met along with our Building and Community Development Department. They reviewed and made recommendations to the amended code changes. Our Novi City Council adopted the recommendations of the code and ordinance changes at the August 24th, 2015 meeting. Andy and Joe then developed a training curriculum that reflected all the updates and changes to the fire code. The training was then coordinated and delivered to all of our fire department personnel, thus expanding their knowledge as they work throughout our community to keep our businesses and homes safe. For their hard work and dedication to the safety and needs of the City of Novi, I'm honored to recognize Fire Marshal Joe Shelton and Fire Protection Officer Andy Copeland with letters of commendation. Congratulations. Officer Jason Bergtold. Nationally, it's estimated more than 300,000 people drive under the influence of alcohol each day. However, fewer than 4,000 arrests are made of those 300,000. 1/3 of those arrested are repeat offenders. In 2014, the number of people killed from drunk driving dropped from below 10,000 to 9,967. Not a day goes by that any one of us here gathered tonight don't hear of a tragic death caused by a driver operating under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Officer Bergtold is a leader in those efforts here in the City of Novi, arresting more drunk drivers than any other Novi police officer in 2015. Officer Bergtold was recognized as the Outstanding Rookie of the Year by the Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, MAD, Michigan chapter in 2014, and was also recognized by the Novi Police Department for the same award that same year. In 2015, Officer Bergtold made 900 traffic stops, resulting in 164 arrests. 28 of those were for drunk driving. For the second year running, please join me in honoring Officer Jason Bergtold for his outstanding enforcement efforts in keeping Novi safe and winning our 2015 MAD Award. Congratulations. Dispatch Shift Leader Janet Kaplan. In 2015, all personnel in the Novi Police Department received advanced training on how to respond to individuals diagnosed with autism and the best practices we can use in helping them. On September 20th of 2015 at approximately 9:50 p.m., the Novi Police Department responded to the area of Bashan Drive in reference to a boy running barefoot wearing only a t-shirt. The responding sergeant, Mark Booty, located the boy, who was accompanied by an unknown citizen. The citizen reported to Sergeant Booty that the boy had just wandered into his home and he was trying to help the boy find his own home. Sergeant Booty immediately noticed signs that the boy may be autistic, and unable to locate the boy's home, Dispatch Shift Leader Janet Kaplan began to search multiple databases using the keyword autism. The word autism produced many results, but nothing specific to this child. She quickly started reading through every single one of the police reports to see if she could find a hit in that search. After reading several reports, she found one report where the Novi Police Department responded to that same area where an autistic child had wandered from home. She immediately notified Sergeant Booty of the boy's name and address, and he was safely returned home. Janet Kaplan's persistence and her determination of never giving up was instrumental in safely and quietly returning the boy home, and much like the training we received, her actions enabled a resolution without creating unnecessary stress or anxiety upon the child. Please join me in recognizing Shift Leader Janet Kaplan with a letter of commendation. Captain Todd Sogg. The City of Novi is committed to the advanced growth and development of every single employee. We are fortunate to have a supportive city administration, a very supportive city council who provides the funding for advanced training and for these men and women to go back and earn advanced degrees through tuition reimbursement. We are fortunate to have Eastern Michigan University nearby, and they host an annual School of Fire Staff and Command. This intensive learning opportunity consists of attending curriculum 1 week per month for 9 months. The school is comprised of fire command officers from sergeants to chief, spanning across our fine state. The Staff and Command program provides upper-level academic instruction in a total of 5 core competencies, which include leadership development, planning and decision-making, human resource management, administration of the fire agency, and critical incidents in Homeland Security. The program has graduated more than 600 students since its inception in 1997. In October of 2015, Captain Todd Sogg graduated with distinction from the 17th class of the School of Fire Staff and Command with 41 fire professionals representing 31 different communities throughout the state of Michigan. Please join me in recognizing Captain Sogg as he successfully completed the executive level training at Eastern Michigan University's Fire Staff and Command. Congratulations. Training Officer Philip Duzminski. Firefighter Eric Nyberg. At approximately 2:45 p.m. on August 6 of 2014, while off duty, firefighter Nyberg was alerted by his neighbor's mother that her son was not answering the door or the phone. All the doors and windows were secured in the home, so she was unable to gain entry or access to check on the well-being of her son. Eric immediately began searching for a safe entry into the home, and while testing the doors and windows for secure admittance, he was able to view the neighbor's son lying unresponsive inside the house. With a sense of urgency, Eric gained entry through a side garage door. He immediately assessed the patient as breathing, but unresponsive to a potential alcohol and prescription drug overdose and an apparent suicide attempt. Eric quickly called 911 to alert his fellow fire and police responders, and because of his quick action, emergency medical training, and a level head, the patient was able to obtain prompt medical attention. He was transported to St. John's Providence Park for medical treatment and recovered. If not for the actions of firefighter Eric Nyberg on his off day, and without a level head and the alertness and responsiveness, this incident could have ended tragically. Please join me in recognizing the conscientious work of firefighter Eric Nyberg with a merit citation. Captain Mark Tyson, Captain John Martin, Captain Todd Sogg, Detective John Zabik, and Officer Haley Penzak. Officer Sean Penzak, why don't you accept this on behalf of Officer Haley Penzak? Another hallmark and tradition of the Novi Police and Fire Departments is the emphasis we place on continued education and lifelong learning. All personnel are reminded of the importance of sharpening their skills and embracing new leadership techniques and proven motivational theories. In 2015, we had several of our staff members and colleagues who earned advanced academic degrees. Training Officer Phil Duzminski, who couldn't be with us tonight, on July 15th, he graduated from Columbia Southern University with a Bachelor of Science degree with a concentration in fire science. Captain Todd Saug on August 14th of 2015 also graduated from Columbia Southern University with a Bachelor of Science with a concentration in fire science. Captain John Martin on August 17th, 2015, he graduated from Eastern Michigan University with a Bachelor of Science degree with a concentration in Public Safety Administration. On February 27th of 2015, Captain Mark Tyson graduated from Columbia Southern University with a bachelor degree in Occupational Health and Safety with a concentration in Fire Science. Detective John Zabik, who couldn't be with us tonight because he's ill, earned his master's degree in Theological Study with a concentration in Philosophical Theology from Liberty University in May of 2015. And supporting his emphasis as a lifelong learner, Detective Zabik is currently working toward his doctoral degree in theology and philosophy. And unfortunately, Officer Haley Penzak could not be with us tonight because she recently had the baby with her and Sean Penzak. But Haley earned her master's degree in clinical psychology with a certificate in addiction studies from Madonna University in 2015. Through this degree and over 750 hours of clinical practicum experience, Officer Penzak graduated with a temporary limited license to practice as a psychologist in the state of Michigan. Please join me in recognizing these department leaders for their sustained commitment to lifelong learning and development. Congratulations. If I could please have Miss Deborah Guffey and Mr. Srini Kalambi join me on stage. On September 8th, 2015, the Novi Police and Fire units were dispatched to a medical on Christina Lane and Sussex Drive for a potential drowning. The patient was a 4-year-old male. The child had been reported missing by his mother just moments earlier prior to the 911 call. At the time of the incident, both Ms. Guffey and Mr. Kalambi witnessed from their windows of their homes as a small child walked to the edge of the retention pond behind their homes. The child quickly removed his shorts and went into the water, immediately began thrashing, and went under the surface of the water. Ms. Guffey and Mr. Kalambi immediately ran outside to the edge of the pond. Mr. Kalambi indicated to Ms. Guffey that he was not that great a swimmer, so she entered the water. And at this point, she entered the waist-deep retention pond, and Mr. Kalambi assisted her by giving her directions as to the last known location of the child. Ms. Guffey discovered the child and pulled him from the water. The child was not breathing, and she immediately began to administer back thrusts to cause the child to begin vomiting and coughing up water. At this time, fire and police and community EMS personnel arrived. The child regained breathing on his own, but due to the conditions of the water, was transported to Providence Park for further assessment. The child was then transferred to the University of Michigan Mott Children's Hospital for further observation and treatment. Fortunately, the patient was able to make a full recovery. If not for these dedicated citizens, this incident could have had a deadly outcome. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in recognizing Srini Kalambi with with life-saving award. Officer John Corder, Officer Jason Bergtold. On August 9th, 2015, at approximately 3:13 a.m., Officer Bergtold conducted a traffic stop on a vehicle for a basic traffic violation. The vehicle was occupied by two individuals, and while speaking with the driver and being ever mindful of his surroundings, Officer Bergtold noticed several pieces of the interior of the vehicle were either broken or loose. His suspicions were heightened as he further questioned the driver, and continuing his investigation, he learned the driver's license was actually suspended out of the state of Illinois. Being suspicious of potential narcotic trafficking activity, Officer Bergtold separated the driver and passenger for further questioning. The passenger, seated in the front passenger seat, actually climbed out the rear passenger window when asked to exit the car. The two stories they gave Officer Bergtold and Corder received did not coincide with one another. Through his training and experience, Officer Bergtold was even more convinced the two were transporting narcotics. Locating a container known to Officer Bergtold, which typically carries narcotics, Officers Bergtold and Corder did an exhaustive search of the vehicle incident to the arrest. During the search, they discovered 2.8 grams of methamphetamine from inside the front passenger door panel. And although our prosecutor's office did not authorize charges because of proof of who possessed the narcotics could not be proven, the investigation is an excellent example of how paying attention to the small things will take care of the big things. His attention to detail and his relentless follow-up helped recover narcotics from the streets of Novi. Please join me in recognizing Officer Jason Bergtold with a letter of commendation. Detective Michael Bender. In December of 2014, Detective Bender received a complaint from the Wayne County Child Protective Services indicating a father had been masturbating in front of his 7-year-old son. Other allegations at the time were that the suspect was allowing his son to watch pornography with him inside the home. It was quickly learned that these allegations took place at a home here in Novi. After an exhaustive 10-month investigation, which led to the identification of 2 other victims in which the suspect had committed felony criminal sexual conduct against, Detective Bender now had 3 of the suspect's children who had been sexually assaulted. Felony charges were issued by the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office, and in 2015, the father demanded a jury trial in circuit court, forcing his children to testify against him. In November of 2015, the father was found guilty of criminal sexual conduct in the first degree, 2 counts of criminal sexual conduct in the second degree, and felony aggravated indecent exposure. And fortunately, on December 3rd, 2015, he was sentenced to 25 years to the Michigan Department of Corrections. Detective Bender took the initial investigation, which was contained in a very small police report and a protective services referral, and relentlessly continued to follow up on this investigation, regardless of the direction that it took him. Witnessing firsthand the devastation to this family empowered Michael Bender to emphasize our philosophy of relentless follow-up and assessment. Detective Bender worked tirelessly, devoting hundreds of hours to this case, and likely saved 3 young children from a lifetime of sexual assault. His dedication to this case and the family brought this case to a successful resolution with the multiple convictions. Detective Bender stayed in close contact with the family and the victims throughout the investigation and during the trial. And once the trial was over, he arranged a private tour of the Novi police station for the 7-year-old boy, recognizing him on his own volition as an honorary police officer for the bravery he showed throughout the investigation and trial. Being recognized as an honorary police officer is something the boy boasted about at school and amongst his friends for the next several days. Obviously something that boosted his confidence and self-esteem to no ends. And Detective Bender continues to have contact with that family to this day. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in recognizing Detective Michael Bender with a Merit Award. Mr. William Sample, Ms. Carmen Fernandez, Mr. Kendall Lanier, and Ms. Linda Oliver, if you could please join me. On July 18th of 2015 at approximately 2:06 a.m., Mr. Sample was on the balcony of his residence when he saw a vehicle traveling at a high rate of speed on Spring Lake Boulevard. The vehicle suddenly jumped the curb, violently striking two trees, spun around, and came to rest. Sparks could be seen coming up from underneath the vehicle, and wasting no time, Mr. Sample and Mr. Fernandez ran to the accident scene to help. Mr. Sample attempted to call 911 on his cell phone, but was unable to hear anything because of the vehicle's roaring engine as it was stuck at full throttle. The vehicle was smoking, and the interior of the car was quickly filling with smoke. All the while believing that any moment the vehicle could burst into flames, Ms. Fernandez and Mr. Sample quickly assessed the driver and realized he was incoherent and in no condition to free himself from the car. With no regard for their own personal safety, the two attempted to pull the driver out of the vehicle. And due to the severe damage, Mr. Sample and Ms. Fernandez were unable to pull the driver through the window. At this point, they frantically used their own strength to bend the door frame down in order to gain access for the driver to exit. Ms. Fernandez and Mr. Sample used every ounce of strength to pull the driver out of the vehicle through the bent door frame. They were able to pull him partially out before his foot got stuck. That's when Ms. Oliver and Mr. Lanier came running up to the car. It was their strength and determination of all four citizens that pulled the driver fully out and away from the vehicle that had just burst into flames. If not for their courageous, selfless, and spontaneous actions of Mr. Sample, Ms. Fernandez, Ms. Oliver, and Mr. Lanier, the driver of that vehicle would have perished that night. Please join me in honoring Mr. Sample, Ms. Fernandez, Mr. Lanier, and Ms. Oliver with Civilian Commendation Awards. Congratulations. Oh, is it? Oh, okay. I'll take Kendall's too. If I could please have Bill and Bonnie Charles join me. The Community Emergency Response Team, otherwise known as CERT, was established through the Federal Emergency Management Agency and educates individuals about disaster preparedness for hazards that may impact their area and trains them in basic disaster response skills such as fire safety, light search and rescue, team organization, and disaster medical operations. Using training in the classroom and during practical exercises, CERT volunteers can assist our first responders following a disaster when many first responders are tied up on other incidents and aren't immediately available to help. In Novi, we are fortunate to have had Bill and Bonnie Charles, who've spent countless hours in preparing and developing classroom activities and field exercises and curriculum to enhance the level of their fellow CERT team members. In fact, Bill is a retired Novi police officer retiring the same year I began 27 years ago. They are exceptional leaders who've never expected anything in return except the ever-growing success of the Novi CERT program. Since its inception, CERT has been established for more than a decade, and more than 200 CERT members and Novi volunteers have benefited from Bonnie and Bill's leadership and guidance. Their mentoring, knowledge, commitment, and experience to the city of Novi cannot be understated. I am most honored to recognize Bonnie and Bill Charles with the Governmental Service Award. Congratulations. Mr. Matt Harris. On July 23, 2015 at 1:55 p.m., the Novi Fire Department was dispatched to the report of a garage fire in the 41,000 block of Fawn Trail. Mr. Matt Harris was driving past the home on his way to work when he noticed smoke coming from the attached garage. The home was being renovated by workers at the time. Mr. Harris was able to call 911 and activate the emergency response, but he also alerted and evacuated the workers that were in the home at the time. They attempted to extinguish the fire with a garden hose, but were unsuccessful. Men and women of the Novi Fire Department arrived on scene and were able to quickly extinguish the fire, and damage was limited to the interior of the garage, and it was determined by fire officials that the fire was caused by the discarding of old oil finishing rags. The rags, over time, spontaneously combusted and caught fire to combustible materials that were close nearby. Due to the keen observation and quick thinking by Mr. Harris, the fire damage was limited and the two occupants working on the home were removed unharmed. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in recognizing Mr. Matt Harris with the Civilian Citation Award. Sergeant Amanda Kulikowski, Officer Jason Meyer, Officer Bob Manar, Officer Eric Limblade, Officer Tom Orlowski, Officer Brian Tillman, Officer Dan Jenkinson, and Officer Sean Penzak. Since January of 2013, the Novi Police Department has hired 22 new police officers, 8 of which were hired in 2015. The hiring process is complex with many different stages. The field training officers, or FTOs as we call them, standing on stage with me tonight, play a vital role in the successful training of all new Novi police officers. We rely upon them in the initial interview stage of the hiring process, when they oftentimes voluntarily change their personal schedules to assist us in the interview process. These FTOs will be training and evaluating new officers, making recommendations as to whether or not they should continue through our training program. The FTO's first impressions and input whether or not to allow an applicant to continue through the application process is an essential predictor on the applicant successfully completing the 16-week training program, producing the very best Novi police officers. In 2015, these FTOs standing before you participated in more than 156 consecutive weeks of training. And while the program is designed to put the very best in the community, it's also designed to weed out those who cannot meet the very high standards and expectations of the Novi Police Department. The success of the FTO program is ever present in the caliber of police officers coming out of the program. Unfortunately, not all new police officers make it through, which is testimony that the program does exactly what it's designed to do, and the FTOs before you today are committed to doing their absolute very best every single day. Each of these outstanding officers are selected to serve as a field training officer based on their own personal dedication, their commitment, their work ethic, their sense of mission, and their commitment to the Novi Police Department, and most importantly, to their profession of law enforcement. Being an FTO carries with it a great deal of stress and toil and pressure that often goes unnoticed and certainly unheralded. Would you please join me in recognizing our group of field training officers as we recognize them with a unit citation? Congratulations. Miss Alexis O'Brien. On April 27th, 2015, the Novi Police Department responded to an armed robbery at the Novi Jewelers. Over $714,000 in jewelry was taken from an acquaintance of the store. Two men attacked the victim, wrestled him to the ground, took the jewelry, and slashed his vehicle's tires. Unbeknownst to them, Alexis O'Brien was sitting in a car nearby where the robbery was taking place. Acting quickly and without regard to her own personal safety, she followed the suspects as they drove away westbound on Grand River Avenue from Novi Road for about 2 miles. While speaking with 911 dispatchers, she followed the suspect's van and quickly provided valuable information for the responding officers as they were driving towards the scene. Unfortunately, a short moment later, Alexis was suddenly cut off by 2 other vehicles, and it was at that time that she realized these 2 other vehicles were working in concert with the suspects, and the situation had become too dangerous for her to continue to be involved. Her attention to detail of the robbery and her willingness to put her aside her personal safety allowed her to provide us with valuable information that we've been able to share nationwide. The information she provided led to suspects in Jackson, Michigan, which linked the suspects in a national crime spree involving dozens of local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies spanning from California to New York City, with multiple locations in Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. This organized crime group is still under investigation. However, many of the suspect linkages would not have been possible if not for the brave actions of Alexis O'Brien. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please join me in recognizing her as we award her with a civilian commendation? Lieutenant Keith Wootnan, Sergeant Mike Warren, Officer Jason Bergtold, and Officer Akhtar Hossein. On January 23rd of 2015 at 8:37 p.m., the Novi Police Department was called to the 22,000 block of Terrace Court for an armed robbery. It was reported that 3 men just robbed a resident at gunpoint and ran away on foot. While responding, a second call came in of a larceny from an auto in a nearby parking lot. The description of those suspects matched exactly the original description of the armed robbery suspects. Sergeant Warren, Officer Bergtold, and Officer Hussein and others began to arrive on scene to take the initial armed robbery report. All the description of the suspects matched. As events unfolded, Sergeant Warren and other officers observed 3 suspects near an adjacent apartment building, and when the suspects saw the officers, they took off running, and our scene was rapidly expanding. Suddenly, Officer Hussein radioed that he had one of the suspects near 9 Mile and Haggerty Roads, and the suspect was not cooperating. With his patrol rifle deployed, Officer Hussein gave the suspect quick and distinct commands for him to yell to stop. Eventually, the suspect did stop, and with the assistance of Lieutenant Keith Wootnan they were able to take the individual into custody. While this was transpiring, Sergeant Warren located a second suspect nearby, and that suspect also ignored orders from Sergeant Warren to show his hands in the air. Sergeant Warren had the suspect at gunpoint before he gave up. Sergeant Warren and Officer Bergtold eventually took the second suspect into custody without incident. The third suspect was eventually located on the east side of Haggerty Road, south of 9 Mile, by men and women of the Farmington Hills Police Department. None of the suspects had the guns on them at the time. However, 2 handguns, the jewelry, and the money, and the keys were located nearby from the 3 crimes that were just committed. 2 of the 3 suspects were charged with armed robbery and receiving and concealing stolen property and have since pled guilty to their charges. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in honoring these men for their brave and quick thinking in the arrest of these 3 violent individuals as we recognize them with a department citation. Sergeant Warren, don't go far. Sergeant Pat Fanning, Sergeant Michael Warren, Captain John Martin, Officer Scott Tews, Officer Michael Daisley, Officer Joshua Johnson, Fire Protection Officer Michael Jacobs, Fire Protection Officer Jeffrey Lockman, Fire Protection Officer Tim Kronovich, Fire Protection Officer Brian Luke. And I do not know what this stage is weighted at, so. We'll soon find out. Drug overdose deaths, driven largely by prescription drugs, are now the leading cause of death in the United States, surpassing motor vehicle crashes. But in recent months, the nation has seen an increase in the use and abuse of heroin. From 2009 to 2012, 826 people died from heroin overdoses in Michigan, and 930 people died from an overdose of prescription pain medications. In 2013, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reported the number of drug overdose deaths has steadily increased over the last decade. The alarming number of opiate deaths in Michigan led the legislature and the governor to sign a package of bills that allows emergency personnel to carry the naloxone medication. Naloxone has been widely viewed as an essential method of reducing overdose deaths that have spiked across the country in recent years. Recognizing the immediate urgency to provide aid to those suffering from an opioid overdose, all Novi police officers and fire personnel were trained on the use of naloxone in 2015. Upon completing their training in July, each officer was given their own naloxone kit. The Novi Fire Department started carrying naloxone on all front line and responding emergency apparatus. Naloxone reverses the bond that opiates have on brain receptors. Breathing may become shallow or stop, leading to brain damage or death if there's no medical intervention. Since the police and fire departments began the naloxone program in mid-2013, we've had 10 occasions to administer it and save someone's life. To start, emergency personnel are responding when they find these individuals unresponsible with agonal breathing. In fact, our very own emergency room physicians here at St. John Provident Park and other hospitals, they attribute the use of the naloxone as a contributing factor in the recovery of these overdose patients. Each of these first responders here on stage, and some of them more than once, have taken part in administering naloxone in the field, bringing back a patient within minutes from an overdose. Please join me in recognizing these individuals tonight, as I am proud to issue them a life-saving award. Mr. Paul Glantz of Imagine Entertainment could not be with us tonight, but accepting on behalf of Mr. Glantz is Mr. Frank Ficarola, Vice President of Operations for Imagine Entertainment. In 2006, the Novi Police Department approached Imagine Entertainment with a proposal to partner with the department on a new drug prevention initiative entitled Addicted to Movies, Not Drugs. Without hesitation, Paul Glantz and his leadership team at Imagine Novi offered to open their theater to more than 500 Novi students for an all-night movie marathon free of charge. This program afforded Novi youth a positive way to spend the night before our national election in November with their friends in a safe, drug and alcohol-free environment without succumbing to any of the peer pressures for drug and alcohol abuse. For the past 10 years, Imagine Entertainment has continued this partnership with the City of Novi, the Novi Youth Council, our police and fire departments, and all of our school districts throughout Novi. As a result, Imagine offers all these students 4 movies throughout the night, unlimited soda and popcorn. Our very own youth council goes throughout the community securing dozens and dozens of pizzas and other food for the kids to eat throughout the night. And they designate their staff to operate the concessions, provide the sodas and the popcorn. Imagine Novi does this for us every single year, and that's calculated at about a $25,000 investment per year. And factor that over 10 years, that equates to over $250,000 or $250,000 of in-kind donation that Paul Glantz and Imagine Entertainment has committed to keeping Novi safe. This program could only be successful with the assistance of Imagine and Paul Glantz. And annually, we hear from the students and their parents and their families about the success and what a great time they had. And the program has been an annual service project for our very own Novi Youth Council for the last 5 years, and it's a model program that's being replicated in other communities. It's for these reasons that the Novi Police and Fire Departments would like to recognize and thank Mr. Paul Glantz and his staff and Mr. Ficarola for their commitment to keeping the students and families in Novi safe. Thank you very much. Fire Protection Officer Jeff Lockman and Michael Jacobs. On April 16th of 2015 at approximately 2:36 p.m., the fire department responded to a medical call of an individual not breathing at Lifetime Fitness on 40,000 High Point Drive. Upon arrival, Engine 3, staffed by Fire Protection Officers Lockman and Jacobs, were advised that CPR was in progress by Lifetime Fitness employees. They immediately took over chest compressions and began breathing for the patient. Community EMS paramedics arrived on scene shortly thereafter to assist in the continuing of the care. Through a concerted effort, Fire Protection Officers Jacobs and Lockman, along with the Advanced Life Support crew, were able to successfully resuscitate the patient while on scene. She began breathing on her own and was eventually transported to St. John Providence Park here in Novi. If not for the immediate action of these 2 firefighters, this situation could have ended tragically, according to the emergency room physicians. Fortunately, the patient made a full recovery and 3 days later was sent home from the hospital. Please join me in honoring Fire Protection Officer Jeffrey Lockman with a life-saving award. Lieutenant John Nelson. In 2013, the Novi Police Department recognized an impending wave of retirement in the upcoming years And after several years of not having or hiring new officers, it became obvious several new hires were imminent. After reviewing a somewhat dormant field training program, or FTO program, we realized the FTO program was in need of an overhaul, and that was in need for a competent and dedicated individual to lead the field training officer team. Then Sergeant Nelson, now a lieutenant, was named the supervising sergeant of the FTO program, and he quickly added two new field training officers. And while he himself completed the field training officer supervisor school, he sent his entire FTO team through a refresher course to prepare them for the future. He reviewed all the forms used in the past to document recruit performance and evaluation, and quickly realized that performance documentation needed updating to meet current standards. Lieutenant Nelson spent months putting together new forms and evaluation, and he hosted the first cadre meeting and prepared his field training officers for the upcoming wave of new Novi police recruits. As anticipated, the Novi Police Department began to quickly hire several new police officers. Since January of 2013, 22 new officers have been hired. That represents more than 1/3 of our entire agency. And Lieutenant Nelson has led his team of FTOs as they guided all 22 of these recruits through the rigorous FTO program. And in an effort to enhance the program and bring interactive training, he sought out scenario-based training for other people to volunteer and participate in. And this proactive approach proved invaluable when 3 of our recruits found themselves having difficulty in training and falling short of the expectations. They participated in the scenario-based training and were able to bring their skills back up to a sufficient level. Testimonials from our very own field training officers have said of Lieutenant Nelson, quote, "Not only is he a role model to new officers, I have found him to be a great mentor for all the FTOs. His commitments to duty, knowledge, and leadership have inspired me to do a better job in my own performance. And I can say without a doubt that my time spent with Lieutenant Nelson and the FTO cadre has been by far the most rewarding experience of my career, and I'm truly grateful." End quote. From another FTO, quote, "Lieutenant Nelson always encourages the field training officers through sharing professional articles and periodicals about leadership, motivation, and goal setting. He often speaks to the FTOs during his off-duty time, assisting with implementing strategies and progress reports to assist our new officers. Lieutenant Nelson incorporated this scenario-based training into the very lengthy, detailed performance improvement plans that we sometimes have to issue to younger officers. DeWolf & Associates is a premier training group for field training officers, and CEO Dan DeWolf said of Lieutenant Nelson, quote, "John's commitment and dedication to the field training program, exhibited by his tireless efforts developing various performance improvement plans, has resulted in the Novi Police Department's field training unit becoming one of the premier programs in this state. The quality of this unit and the recruits they train is directly related to Lieutenant John Nelson's passion for excellence as the field training supervisor. Lieutenant Nelson, through his commitment and leadership, has effectively rejuvenated our field training program, and it is with great pride and pleasure that I present Lieutenant John Nelson with the Novi Police Department's Leadership Award." Captain John Martin. Captain John Martin joined the Novi Fire Department in 2003 as an auxiliary firefighter. His talent, strong work ethic, and commitment to the organization were recognized early on when he was named as the Fire Department's training coordinator in 2005. Captain Martin was promoted to the rank of captain in 2010, and he's quickly recognized the importance of working side by side with his police partners, and he's immediately began to foster a relationship with police and fire command officers, as well as first-line responding police officers and firefighters. Captain Martin has worked collectively with police officials coordinating fire department efforts for events throughout the city, including parades, road races, the Susan G. Komen 3-day walk, and the Fifth Third Michigan State Fair. In 2010, Captain Martin was responsible for bringing automated external devices that you see throughout the Civic Center here and that are present throughout a majority of our parks and city facilities. In 2012, Captain Martin began the tedious project of reviewing and update all the standard operating procedures of the Novi Fire Department. To ensure the standards were understood, he also developed quizzes on each policy to test the knowledge of our men and women. He continues to oversee the department's policies and procedures and our articulate quizzes, updating and writing new ones as needed. Captain Martin not only took on this monumental task, but continues to ensure all of our members of the fire department are guided by the very best practices and standards known to the fire service. Captain Martin continued his commitment to life-saving and building relationship with the police department in 2015 when he developed the training program for the Novi police officers on the use of the naloxone life-saving antidote for those going through an opioid overdose. He not only developed the training material, but also performed the training of 58 of our Novi police officers. His dedication goes well beyond the fire service. He regularly volunteers his personal time for community engagement at the Addicted to Movies Not Drugs, the Addicted to Games Not Drugs, giving of his personal time to assist the Novi Police and Fire Benevolent Association at our annual hockey event and our annual golf outing. Not a year has gone by that John hasn't volunteered his efforts somewhere throughout our community. And in this past December, when in partnership with our Community Relations Department, we launched a Kindness is Contagious initiative where the men and women of the police and fire departments issued $25 Target gift cards to needy individuals they came across during the performance of their duty. It was Captain Martin who stepped up and said, "I'll coordinate that on behalf of the fire department." Co-workers have said about Captain Martin, quote, "The things I've learned from him have made me the fire officer I am today. Working for Cap can sometimes feel like running a constant marathon. The drive and constant pursuit of excellence that Captain Martin has can flat out wear you down. Every day, I strive to model my leadership style after his, and if I had to choose one word to describe Captain Martin, it would be leader," end quote. Another individual says, "John Martin has proven himself as a leader, motivator, and visionary for not only the police and fire personnel, but all City of Novi employees. He's a true partner to the Public Safety Administrative Team, playing a key role in design and communication and administration of fire department initiatives. Captain Martin leads his teams every single day with logical intellect and unselfish heart. He's not being recognized tonight for one specific event. However, it's because of his sustained and unwavering commitment to the City of Novi that brings me great joy to present Captain John Martin with the Fire Department's Leadership Award." Has Karen Patterson made it here yet? Yes, awesome. We had to hold Karen till the end because she just finished a midterm exam at Wayne State University. But trust me, last is certainly not least. On April 30th of 2015 at 4:39 p.m., dispatch shift leader Karen Patterson received a 911 call from a male caller. The caller's speech was slow and slurred, and she recognized immediately that something was wrong. The caller told Karen that, quote, "he had a plan and he will never give up," end quote. The caller went on to say that he had been drinking alcohol for 11 straight days. The caller provided his address, and immediately South Lyon police officers were dispatched to check on the caller. It was quickly realized by responding officers that the caller had provided an incorrect address. Karen Patterson quickly started searching the caller's name through our multiple databases, trying to locate an alternate address for the caller. In a matter of minutes, she found a second address for the caller and sent the South Lyon police officers there. She wasted no time, and as a result, the caller was found highly intoxicated, more than 4 times the legal limit, and as a result of this, intoxication and diminished mental state, he was transported to a nearby hospital for evaluation. South Lyons Police Chief, Mr. Lloyd Collins, stated later that he credits shift leader Karen Patterson's actions, persistence, and determination, and never giving up that likely saved this man's life. Please join me in recognizing shift leader Karen Patterson for the quick and exemplary work she performed with a letter of commendation. Congratulations, Karen. If I could please have Lieutenant John Nelson. Oh, she's going to stay. Lieutenant John Nelson, Officer Scott Tews, Officer Andrew Hudacek, and Shift Leader Karen Patterson. On October 25th of 2015 at 12:17 p.m., Officers Tews responded to the lobby of the police headquarters to investigate a domestic assault complaint. The victim was assaulted by her husband and was bleeding severely from the head. After securing medical treatment for her, officers responded to the residence to further the investigation. Knowing they were dealing with an assaulted man who had already caused an injury to his wife, Dispatch Shift Leader Karen Patterson quickly began to collect as much background information she could about the suspect. As Officers Tews, Hudacek, and Lieutenant Nelson arrived, Karen Patterson found that the man officers were approaching had a semi-automatic pistol registered to him. Knowing this information was vital to the officers, she quickly acted and informed the officers as they were on their approach to the home, obviously arising their awareness. Officers knocked on the door only to be greeted by the man holding the semi-automatic handgun. Despite officers' commands, the man refused to exit the home and quickly shut the door. Officers knew there were 3 minor children in the home, and they retreated to a position of cover to quickly evaluate their options in order to bring this situation to a quick and peaceful resolution, causing no harm to the children. A few minutes of silence went by before the man began to exit the home, yelling at Officer Hudacek. Officer Tews and Lieutenant Nelson immediately took him into custody without incident. It was later discovered that the man had fired 1 shot with a shotgun into the wall as officers were making their approach upon the house. A total of 5 weapons were taken out of the home, and it is clear that his intent, that he was ready to fend off the officers with weapons. Had it not been for the diligence of Dispatch Shift Leader Karen Patterson, her quick thinking, and that of the officers, and their ability to remain calm, this situation could have turned out much differently. The man was charged with 1 count of felony discharge of a firearm in a residence and 1 count of domestic aggravated assault, and his cases are still pending. Please join me in recognizing these brave and diligent individuals as we award them a department citation and a letter of commendation. Congratulations. In the early morning hours of July 29th of last year, a 74-year-old male resident of Novi called 911, telling Dispatch Shift Leader Karen Patterson he was going to end his life. He continued telling her that he had a .38 caliber handgun and he was, I quote, going to blow his head off, end quote. He told Karen Patterson that he had left his front door unlocked so the authorities could find his body. She immediately started police officers to his home in response to the call, and she quickly went into action, and relying upon her training and experience and her natural abilities to build rapport, she was able to talk to this man for several minutes. She engaged him in conversation about positive things in his life, his family, and happier times that he's enjoyed. However, at the time, he wanted nothing to do with the conversation and abruptly ended the call. Shift Leader Patterson was determined that she was never going to give up and not allow the man to take his own life, and she called him back, reestablishing that rapport. And after a lengthy conversation, Karen Patterson was able to talk the man into putting the gun down. She talked the man back into his wheelchair because he was wheelchair bound, was on the floor, and she asked him to meet the police officers at the door. When he did that, the man immediately told the officers that Karen Patterson had talked him into putting the gun down and not taking his own life. 3 handguns were recovered from the immediate area where that gentleman was at. She was determined to help this man, and that's why she spent more than 80 minutes on the phone with this distraught caller, ultimately convincing him not to kill himself. Her persistence, her determination, her outstanding demeanor, and calming voice brought this very explosive situation to a peaceful resolution. This gentleman was transported to an area hospital, obviously for a mental health evaluation, and has been ultimately reintegrated back into the community and his home under professional care. It's with great honor that we recognize, and I would ask you to join me in recognizing Shift Leader Karen Patterson with a Life-Saving Award. Emergency Management Coordinator Ray Garbarino, if you could please join me. And as I called his name, Ray got this look on his face because he doesn't want to be up here. Ray Garbarino retired after 27 years with the Northville Township Police Department in 2012 as a detective lieutenant. Some of his past accomplishments included Northville Township Police Officer of the Year, and he's also a SWAT team operator with the Western Wayne Special Operations Team. Northville Township's loss soon became Novi's treasure when Ray Garbarino started working for the City of Novi as our Emergency Management Coordinator in September of 2012. When Ray took command as the Emergency Management Coordinator, one of his primary responsibilities was to oversee the CERT program. This includes all scheduling, training, practical exercises, and coordinating the CERT response to community events and other disasters or situations that we may have to mitigate. One CERT member said of Ray, quote, "Since Ray came on board as the Emergency Management Coordinator, there has been a distinct improvement in the professionalism and dedication of the CERT team membership," end quote. This is due to the efforts of Ray Garbarino improving the quarterly training and conducting exercises which truly tests our areas of deficiencies that are identified through training. Ray Garbarino assures that the certifications are current for all of our CERT team members. He's hosted 4 quarterly training meetings in 2015, retraining more than 188 of our CERT volunteers. These meetings covered topics like the point of dispensary program, consumers' energy, electrical, and gas safety, disaster medical operations, and autism training. A true measure of Ray's success in the management of the Novi CERT team is the fact that there's consistently 40 to 50 CERT members at every quarterly training, a number we've never, ever seen before. In March of 2015, Ray initiated an active shooter tabletop exercise with Novi Police Command staff and 12 Oaks Mall administrators. As a follow-up, in June of 2015, he took the lead in organizing and planning an active shooter assailant drill, which was conducted at 12 Oaks Mall. This drill, which utilized force-on-force scenarios, was coordinated training for both police and 12 Oaks Mall security personnel in response to active shooter incidents. 20 CERT team members supervised by Ray and dozens of police officers participated not only as active assailants, but as scene security and officers responding. In August of 2015, Ray facilitated an active shooter drill at the Novi Public Library, and each member of the library staff and 21 CERT team members took part in this valuable training. In order to prepare the CERT volunteers for large-scale emergencies such as tornado touchdowns, a training drill was hosted at Wildlife Woods, one of our nature parks, and this relevant and timely training was attended by more than 31 CERT team members. Ray continued his community engagement by hosting 3 separate workplace violence seminars here in the Civic Center and at the City Police Department, training more than 40 or 50 of our own city staff on how to deal with potential violent customers in potential scenarios. In 2015, he's been able to recruit and train 10 additional members of our community emergency response team, bring the number to more than 220 volunteer members. Trained and prepared to serve, the CERT members assist the city and public safety personnel with a variety of events, including our Memorial Day Parade, the Detroit Lions practice that we held here recently at the high school, the Labor Day Parade, the Addicted to Movies Not Drugs, the Addicted to Games Not Drugs, and Novi's Fire Up Fest. Throughout the year, Ray met with a variety of homeowner and business associations, helping them to prepare not only their neighborhoods, but also their businesses in the event of a natural or man-made disaster. These included the Country Place Condominiums and Glen Haven Emergency Preparedness Committees, the 12 Oaks Mall Tenant Association, Cooper Standard Automotive, and the Novi Civic Center. And in doing this, Ray is an economic development ambassador, always offering his assistance to any new companies that might come into Novi to assist them in preparing and implementing emergency procedures. Not a month goes by that I don't receive feedback from a business owner or community member commenting on the breadth and depth of Ray's knowledge in emergency preparedness. His efforts reach far beyond the city of Novi as he helps our area's school districts, Detroit Catholic Central, the Northville Public Schools, the Wall Lake Community Schools, in working on their proactive efforts and their lockdown drills. Recently, he helped oversee the lockdown drills at Catholic Central and Thornton Creek Elementary. He was also instrumental in having Thornton Creek Elementary install Knox boxes so our police officers and firefighters could enter those buildings after hours or in the event of a lockdown. In November, Ray and a CERT member met with 2 Novi High School seniors who were preparing to participate in the Health and Occupation Students of America, HOSA, a regional competition under the CERT Disaster Medical Operations category. These students were provided the opportunity to work with Ray and the Novi CERT program for the competition, and Ray was able to be a mentor to them. This man has significantly enhanced the emergency response capabilities and preparedness efforts of the city of Novi and its corporate and individual citizens throughout his tireless efforts over the last 4 years. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my distinct honor and privilege to recognize Emergency Management Coordinator Ray Garbarino as our 2015 Civilian Employee of the Year. Congratulations.
Hi, well, this is a night of firsts for me. This is the first time I've ever received a civilian award, and the very first time I've ever seen a fellow Italian play the bagpipes. Very, very different, but Eric did a really nice job. I really appreciate this award. I appreciate the recognition. I receive a ton of help, both from the chief and from Assistant Chief Hart. They're there on a daily basis, giving me encouragement, letting me know that I'm valued and welcomed in the department. Means a lot to me. I don't think I've ever worked for 2 finer gentlemen. I can say the same about the rest of the administrative staff. If I need something, I need help, I need assistance, I ask, they provide it for me. And that extends down to both the Fire and Police Command. I've worked with several of them on different projects. Always very professional, very knowledgeable. I've been in law enforcement a long time. I'm impressed on a daily basis of the professionalism of the department. Very proud and honored to be a part of it. Thank you very much.
Lieutenant Karl Korzanowski. Lieutenant Korzanowski began serving the Novi Fire Department in November of 1989 as a paid-on-call firefighter. On October 1st of 2002, he was promoted to lieutenant at Fire Station 4, willing to take on the responsibility of a more formal leadership role. Carl has always been a crucial leader and continues to be a dedicated member of the Novi Fire Department. In his full-time job, Carl is a Child Protective Services Program Manager for the Department of Health and Human Services Child Welfare Field Operations Division. He's very instrumental in the success of several volunteer activities throughout the city of Novi, including the Muscular Dystrophy Association Fill the Boot campaign, the Novi Goodfellows, the St. Baldrick's Foundation, and the Novi Police and Fire Benevolent Association. He's always the first to volunteer for any department endeavor which promotes employee engagement and development. He's even volunteered to skate against some of the finest Red Wing hockey alumni during our annual hockey event, and always willing to assist in any way. In 2011, Carl was instrumental in assisting us in preparing and drafting and finalizing our first ever fire department strategic plan. And on numerous occasions while working for the fire department, he stepped up by assuming additional responsibilities and additional leadership responsibilities at multiple fire stations, not just at Station 4. A consummate professional, Carl always strives to do the best that he possibly can. He's a role model, he's a leader, and he's always available to the men and women he manages. His drive and determination exemplifies him as a leader among his fellow firefighters. New members greatly benefit from his passion, his knowledge, his mentoring, and his experience, and he works diligently every single day to train them and educate the new fire personnel so they are prepared as they possibly can be before going into harm's way. Never willing to pass up an opportunity to help a fellow firefighter, Carl always makes himself available, regardless of the time of day. His positive attitude, his catchy smile, is something that makes a difference to a lot of the men and women who interact with him, and he makes you want to be around him because of the passion that he has for service to this community. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in recognizing our 2015 Novi Firefighter of the Year, Lieutenant Carl Korzanowski.
Oh, boy. Thank you very much, Chief Malloy, Director Johnson, members of the selection committee. I'm very humbled to receive this. I do want to give a lot of credit for my 26 years, 4 months, 3 days of doing this to my wife, Marcia, my children, who have put up with a myriad interruptions to our life, understanding that I had a passion for serving this community, kind of being an action junkie, I guess. And you know, it's an honor for me each and every day that I put this uniform on to try to uphold the traditions and the expectations of the community, of my leaders, in order to do the best job I can to keep the citizens of Novi safe. I am truly humbled and appreciative of this award. Thank you very much.
Sergeant Amanda Kulikowski. Then Officer Kulikowski began her career with the Novi Police Department on November 24th, 2004, after working as a police officer for the Detroit Police Department. Early on in her service with the Novi PD, she distinguished herself as a self-starter who was motivated to succeed. It was quickly recognized that her experience and her knowledge and her character was best suited and within a couple of years, she was training our new police officers as a field training officer. Officer Kulikowski was named Employee of the Month on 3 separate occasions, one in 2007 for her professionalism during an audible car alarm complaint that caused her to stop and spot another vehicle in the area, leading to the arrest of 3 occupants of the vehicle who had been breaking into cars in the area. Due to her efforts, more than $4,000 in stolen cash and property was recovered, along with stereo equipment and accessories from the vehicle. All 3 individuals were charged with felony breaking and entering of an auto and receiving and concealing stolen property. By 2009, Officer Kulikowski continued to establish herself as a leader in the organization as a result of her professionalism, her integrity, and her commitment to excellence. She was selected to serve as a task force officer with the Drug Enforcement Administration, Group Number 6 in Detroit. She was entrusted to represent the city of Novi on a team among 15 different law enforcement agencies, 15 different law enforcement agencies representing 8 different departments, and men and women. During her service in the DEA, she performed admirably with the utmost dedication in bringing down major drug trafficking organizations, not only here in Michigan, but back towards the southwest border. As a result of that, she was prominent in earning the Individual Achievement Award as a result of her service with DEA. And upon returning to our uniform operations, Officer Kulikowski never missed a beat, and she picked right up where she left off as she assimilated back to her new role. Adding to her portfolio, she was selected to serve on our implementation committee, a change committee within the organization where they dictate new ideas, new motivations, new programs. Beyond the awards, Amanda has a long-standing history of being an informal leader among her coworkers and her peers. And her devotion doesn't stop with her dedication to law enforcement, for it's Amanda's all-encompassing approach which shines through in her community engagement. Her volunteers' work is always present as she seeks out sponsorships for the Novi Police and Fire Benevolent Association golf outing and our annual hockey event. When she's not promoting these events on her personal time, she's volunteering her time at the events. She always has a positive, can-do attitude and is widely respected by her peers, her supervisors, and the citizens she comes in contact with. She's always willing to lend a hand regardless of the task, and she's a true role model everyone in our organization can learn from and should emulate. This past year, Amanda was promoted to the rank of sergeant, and she's recognized the need for improvement in certain areas. One of those areas was the location and improvement of our squad room, the need of updating some of the equipment and some of the accessories. She was able to obtain larger monitors for the men and women to write the reports on, and the feedback from her peers was absolutely outstanding. And I think it exemplifies everything that she stands about because it's service to others above her own self. Throughout the year, she also continued to serve, as you heard earlier, as a proven leader in our field training program, not only training the new recruits, but volunteering on her own time to participate in their scenario-based training to help make them better Novi police officers. While working as a field training officer, she excelled as a police officer, ranking in the top 1/3 of our entire uniform operations division in self-initiated field activity, conducting nearly 500 traffic stops and making 63 arrests. Her self-initiated field activity supports the department's initiative towards data-driven decisions for crime and traffic safety. And again, it was no surprise to anyone in the department when she decided to take part in the promotional process for the rank of sergeant in December of 2015, and she finished number 1. I was honored to promote her to the rank of sergeant on December 4th of last year. And recognizing an individual as a police officer of the year is rarely done for simply one major arrest or one significant incident, but it's done due to the recognition of that individual who embodies our core values, who has a sustained commitment to excellence in everything they do, and for one, who leads by example and treats everyone she has contact with exactly how she would want to be treated. For that and many other reasons, it's my distinct privilege and honor to award Sergeant Amanda Kulikowski as our Novi Police Officer of the Year. Congratulations.
Well, thank you everyone for staying. I know this is the last award. I feel very blessed today, and if I had a piece to break off to give to everybody who worked with me, I would, because I wouldn't be great without everybody in this room. Everybody's affected me positively, and I'm really proud to say that I work for the Novi Police Department. Thank you.
As you all know, these types of ceremonies, they don't happen by accident. I'd like to thank all the members who submitted these respective nominations in the awards, and for the work that was performed by our awards selection board in reviewing and authorizing this most deserved recognition. I'd also like to recognize and thank our administrative assistant, Renee Landis, who spent countless hours preparing the awards this evening and coordinating the event. In addition, I'd also like to thank Ms. Wendy Duvall from our community relations team for coordinating tonight's setup, photography, and refreshments. Renee and Wendy, if you could please wave your hand so people could recognize you. Wendy, I know you're over there. Thank you very much. I can still see you behind the pillar. Nice try. I'd also like to once again congratulate all of our personnel, our firefighters, police officers, dispatchers, and the citizens recognized here this evening. I'd also like to thank those who attended who didn't receive an award, but actually showed up to support your fellow firefighters, police officers, and dispatchers, and took the time to honor them with your presence and your kind words. I also offer a heartfelt thanks to our family members of our firefighters, our dispatchers, and our officers who came out tonight supporting their moms, their dads. They stand by them every single day. We take them away from you every single day, and there's times that you don't know if mom's coming home at night or dad's going to make it home safely. You all have my highest praise and appreciation, for without you, this would not be possible. Thank you. At this time, I would like to call upon Imam Nafiz Ahmed to perform our benediction. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, God, for your presence with us this day. As we depart from this place now, we ask you to bless us throughout the remainder of the day and guide us safely home. Don't let the learning and conversations of this gathering die, but instead, may they continue to ruminate with us and bear fruit in our city throughout the year, until we find ourselves together again. God, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. Amen. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you once again for coming out tonight. That concludes our awards ceremony. Drive safe.